It's Eric Riddick, fresh home from 29 and a half year bid based on a wrongful conviction. I'm here down here at F.A.M E TV. I want to thank everybody here for inviting me, and I'm ready.
Philly F.A.M.E. Philly F.A.M.E. Alright, man, Eric Riddick, man, fresh home. Like you said, you ain't even been home 30 days yet, you know what I mean?
30, not even 30.
So how you doing, first and foremost? How you taking it all in? How everything been for you?
Man, I'm enjoying it, you know what I mean? But I'm taking it in. There's a lot, but I'm enjoying it. You know, like we just was talking about out there, you know, I feel like I was trained for this moment. You know what I mean? All those years, yeah, it was a horrible situation, but at the same time, you know, that situation prepared me for this moment right here.
Right. Alright, so let's, you know, like I was explaining to you off camera, I want to break down your story into like 3 phases, you know, because a lot of people know you say you did like 30 years in prison, and I mean, so I want to touch on your story prior to that, then we'll get into your experience, you know, as you were in prison, and then we're going to get into your transition back home where you at now, I mean.
Okay.
So let's give people a brief rundown, like what part of the city you from originally?
I'm from Southwest Philadelphia, 58th Street.
Alright, 58th Street, okay.
Born and raised all my life.
Alright.
And basically, you know, I was in the mix. You know what I mean? You know, I was you know, the same things that's going on now was pretty much, that was the foundation back then before I fell, when I came up. You know, same issues, same problems, same poverty, same violence. You know, same issues that compel the violence. You know, the whole nine. And yeah, you know, that's what led up to me being incarcerated. You know, although I was wrongly convicted, you know, I always, when I was running the youth programs in the joint, I used to always tell them, even though I'm innocent of this crime, I put myself in situations to be falsely accused. You know what I mean? From engaging in, you know, what was going on out there. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's the same thing. You know, same story, same suit, just reheated. You know what I mean? 2021. You know, go back 30 years. Pretty much the same things was going on.
Right. So you grew up in the era where, you know, the JBM was around. So I wanted to know, like, was that influential? Because I know they was heavy in Southwest at that time. So, you know, explain that, you know, dynamic.
Yeah, well, yeah, I come in. That's my era. That's the era that I come up in. A lot of the brothers are strong. A large percent of the brothers that that label was attached to, I know. I grew up with them, and again, that was just that was a segment of that era. You know, that was a segment of that era, and it's deep that you mentioned that because the district attorney's office just recently, after I came home, it was mentioning certain cases, and I brought certain cases dealing with the JBM to their attention. I was saying, you know, when Krasner was talking about a culture of corruption, those cases is like the epitome of injustice, right? You know what I mean? You know, they like the JBM, the Jamaicans, and the Badlands down F.A.M.E. Butler. You know, a lot of them guys didn't have a chance when they walked into court. They were so vilified. Whether they was guilty or innocent was like really irrelevant. But yeah, that's deep that you mentioned that particular organization, right? Or that particular group of individuals, because a lot of them is also wrongly accused. Now, not that they was angels, right? None of us was angels, but at the same time, when we went in that courtroom, it wasn't about finding out whether we did it or not. It was about, okay, they vilified. We just need a body to fill those cells because we, you know, $45,000 a year for each individual. But yeah, those cases, those are cases that you know, we definitely, you know, you should definitely revisit. You know, because a lot of those guys is on their way home also. You know what I mean? And it came out that, you know, they had a lot of corrupt cops, a lot of false statements, you know, the whole nine. You know?
That's deep, right. Shout out to them brothers, man. I actually spoke to Aaron Jones, you know, and he's still fighting to come home as well, so shout out to him.
And let me say something on that too. Like, those individuals, I know I did 30 years with a lot of them, right? And a lot of them went through the same transformation I went through. And they still got the attention because of that particular history, they got the attention of those young boys out there now. That's out there doing, that's out there wrecking havoc. So like, when we talking about addressing that out there, you have to go back. We have to, at some point, go back to the individuals that used to be them young boys out there, right? Because we still understand their mindset. We still speak their language to a certain degree. We know how to meet them where they at and then bring them where they need to be at. So especially Aaron, individuals like Aaron Jones, Kevin Bowman, and Reed, Tone, and all of them. And some of the young guys out there wasn't even born when JBM was around. Right. But they know of that organization, and situations like that, is able to get their attention. So that's definitely something that we should revisit at some point.
No, for sure. All right, now let's get a little bit into the situation that led up to you doing the 30 years that you did. Right. And like I was telling you off camera, you had did a podcast not too long ago, and I had listened to it, and you had briefly touched on the topic of they accused you of actually killing somebody that you actually knew and was alright with, and that actually offended you that they even accused you of doing something like that, and you had to sit all that time for something like that, and you said you had that in your mind, like, because I was offended, that gave me the fuel to fight and not give up. So speak a little bit on, that transition going from, being out in the world and then getting accused of something like that.
Yeah. Again, the guy that lost his life in my case, first of all, he was a good individual, right? Even though he grew up with us, he was one of the ones that was going to school. That he went to Bach High School, one of the most prestigious high schools in Philadelphia, public high schools. But yes, he lost his life, and I was falsely accused by one individual. And again, I was definitely offended, because I'm saying to myself, like, this individual was like my brother. You know what I mean? And that was the initial response, outside of just being hurt that he lost his life. Once I was accused, I'm like, damn, I was truly offended. And that did fuel me, because at the end of the day, I definitely wanted to prove that those accusations was a lie. But also his family, the deceased family, was like a second family to me, and they know, they know that I didn't commit that crime. But at the same time, some of them felt as though I should have cooperated with law enforcement. They felt as though I knew what happened. And that was the issue with some of the individuals in the family. But by no means, the ones that grew up with us, I refuse to believe in 1 minute that they believe that I could have did something like that to their family members. But they know that we come up together like brothers, But
the evidence suggests to many, including 2 judges who have reviewed the case, that Eric Riddick has spent 26 years in prison for a murder he couldn't have committed.
I definitely have felt so overwhelmed and cheated in these last 26 years.
Cheated, Riddick's mother Christine says, because in the eyes of the law, what many see as proof of innocence doesn't apply in Riddick's case. To understand why, you have to go back to 1992, when Riddick was sentenced to life for the murder of his childhood friend, Will Catlett.
Did you kill Will Catlett?
Absolutely not. No, sir.
I spoke with Riddick from a Pennsylvania prison.
I've never, ever taken a human life.
It was the testimony of a single eyewitness that landed Riddick in prison, Sean Stevenson, who told police he saw Riddick fire a rifle from an elevated fire escape. But Riddick claimed he was 2 blocks away with a few friends at the time of the killing.
It was early in the evening. We was hanging out, sitting on the steps.
Justine Dawson and Lewis Jordan backed his story.
I was sitting right here. Eric was like right over here.
But Riddick's alibi witnesses were never called to testify. He says his court-appointed attorney, who declined to comment to us, opted not to put on a defense.
He was right here with us. That's how I understand how he got involved in that.
The proof is right here.
For years, Riddick's mother has battled on his behalf, getting the attention of Philadelphia Councilman David O.
Evidence is very clear that Eric Riddick did not commit this crime.
The councilman discovered recently analyzed forensic evidence showing that the wounds to the victim prove the shots could not have come from an elevated fire escape.
The entry wound was from an upward firing. It was below to up and not top to down. And so that scientific evidence refutes that Eric Riddick could have been the shooter.
But perhaps most important, he says, was this affidavit signed in 1999 by that eyewitness recanting Sean Stevenson falsely accused Eric Riddick. But by the time Riddick filed an appeal, it was too late. He says he didn't physically receive the affidavit until 2003, and Pennsylvania law requires new evidence must be filed within 60 days of being discovered, or it can't be considered. Last December, two of the judges who denied his appeal wrote, "It is clear to all that it is likely that an innocent man sits behind bars for no better reason than a poorly conceived statute."
What was it like for you to read those words?
I looked at it immediately as a blessing, because I fought for so many years.
Yet Riddick still sits in prison. Councilman O says it's all because of a missed deadline.
Evidence that demonstrates that a person is not guilty should always be material.
The family of victim Will Catlett is still grieving his loss and continues to believe Riddick is the murderer. But Riddick tells us he will not stop fighting for his freedom.
It's been a long fight.
And neither will his mother.
I feel robbed for myself and I feel robbed for him.
Last week, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court denied Riddick's appeal. His hopes now rest in the hands of the Philadelphia District Attorney and his new Conviction Integrity Unit, which is reviewing the case.
Yeah, that's a whole other issue in and of itself. A lot of times when they snatch somebody, something happened in our neighborhoods, and they snatch somebody and interrogate them, their whole thing, they're just looking for a body to fill a cell and solve the case. So what they do, they'll try to get you to do their job for them. You know what I mean? They try to get you to do their job, and if you don't do their job for them, meaning to solve those cases, then you'll be the body that's sitting in that cell during that time for a crime that they know you didn't commit. But they'll get offended if they feel that you know something about the crime and you're not cooperating. And I remember when Patricia Cummings, she came and seen me maybe a couple months before I got out, and we went over all this. So she asked me about if I could go back, would I have cooperated with their investigation? And my response to her was basically, that's not my job, right? That's not my job, and so she inquired more about that, and I explained to her, if first of all, we don't look at the police department in our community as part of the community. That's the first that's the first problem. You know what I mean? We look at them as an occupying force, basically. And if this was a civilized world where though we was policing our community, right? Then first of all, we wouldn't have all these things going on. Second of all, then when something happened, then you may get some traction or some help or whatever the case may be if we was living in that type of civilized environment where we felt as though that particular institution cared about the community. You know what I mean? So that's not the case in our community, unfortunately, or whether some people say it's fortunately or whatever. But that's a deep subject in and of itself.
Right. So now you get locked up, you get charged with that. You ultimately get convicted, even though you like, damn, how are you gonna convict me for something I didn't do? Mm-hmm. So then I heard also another thing that you mentioned on the podcast was initially you was on some type time where y'all was like running around doing the regular stuff in jail, right. And then a lifer actually pulled your coat and gave you some game and made you change your mentality. So right. Speak a little bit on that.
Yeah, that's heavy because you have one of the things I said in that podcast. We got a lot of problems out here in the world, right? And I always say I know where buried treasure solutions are, right? In the form of lifers that don't have the opportunity to come home because there's no parole for lifers in Pennsylvania. And when it comes to, like, say, the violence, for example, you know, when we came through, we was 21, 22, geographical. We going to war with South Philly over the phones. We stabbing each other up. We wilding out. And when we came upstate, we ran across a group of lifers that was rehabilitated, reformed, but they still spoke our language. We knew them. A lot of them was old gangsters from back in the day. So they already had our attention because that's the type of time we was on. So when we start listening to them, we start seeing that they wasn't on no gangster shit. They was really on some grown man stuff, right? And they gave us other options. You know what I mean? They gave us other options other than going to stab this boy up about the phone, or he disrespected such and such, so I'm gonna go ahead and air him out. Or he did something to me on the street, so I'm gonna go ahead and air him out. So they gave us, and they did that by really giving us a different view of how we see ourselves. You know what I mean? And they just knew how to lead. They knew how to strategically drop little knowledge on us without sounding like they was preaching to us. You know what I mean? And I actually learned from them, literally for years, learned and studied their methods, because I was always fascinated, like, how he get my attention like that? Like, I'm on route, ready to go do something to somebody, right? About whatever, the phone or whatever. But they was able to get my attention and then convince me that it's another option, it's a better option. You know what I mean? And actually, when it comes to the lifers, we get a glimpse of that solution-based human potential when you look at the hundreds of juvenile lifers that have came home. Hundreds have came home, and 99.9% of them is all doing excellent work. Some of them doing extraordinary work in the political field, advocating for peace in the streets. Some just living a normal life. You know what I mean? Going to work, getting up every morning, going to work, taking care of their family. So, like I said in the podcast, the boogeyman, they used to vilify lifers so much that lifers was like the boogeyman. If you pass a bill for parole for life after 25, 30 years, the whole world gonna come to an end. Everybody gonna get murdered. So that's dispelled when you see the hundreds of lifers that have came home, you know, under the juvenile lifer bill.
All right, so let's jump back to your your experience going through that. Like you said, the lifer pulled your coat, gave you some different, information, because you respected them, you listened, and actually took heed, and that made you change your mentality. So Fast forward, here come Meek Mill. Come through the prison that you in. You 20-something in at this time. And I mentioned like on the podcast, I heard they played a little snippet of something he said. Where he said y'all was like ping pong partners or whatever. He used to play ping pong with you. And he learned that you was in there for 20-something years, and he got intrigued by that story that you've been in there and was interested to learn more about you. And then come to find out, you get a letter from the Supreme Court, basically saying that they know you innocent of the crime for whatever reason they can't let you out. So then he become cool with you. Fast forward, he gets out, and then he basically advocate on your behalf. So speak a little bit on that experience, meeting him, building with him, and what type of vibe that was.
Yeah, Meek, man, that's my little brother. That's my brother now. You know, that's family. But and here's the thing: a lot of young guys over the years, right, that I passed the same information off that the old heads gave me that we were just talking about. I didn't do no different with him, right? It just so happened he has a bigger platform, right, to to show his appreciation. But even when I was giving him the things that I was giving him, I told him from the beginning that he don't owe me nothing. What I gave him, I said I was giving it to him, and he deserved it through birthright. This is his by birthright. You know what I mean? Just like the old heads when they gave it to me, he said, this is yours by birthright. You don't owe me nothing. It just so happens that he appreciated it to the degree where though he went out there and advocated on my behalf. But even when we us playing ping pong and chess, he just said in an interview maybe a couple weeks ago that I used to have him in his back table on the unit. And we used to play chess, right? But he told the person in the interview that we turned that table into the pyramids, right? An institution of learning. You know what I mean? We used to be playing chess, and that's what it appeared to people looking from the outside in, or ping pong. But he was learning in the midst of that. You know what I mean? And he came out. He kept his word. He extended his full resources, to the fight to liberate me. And I'm forever grateful for that. You know what I mean? I'm forever grateful for that. And I always told him, hip hop got a major role to play, in the redevelopment of this world. It's not just a booth. And I used to always tell him, look, hip hop is not you just going in the booth and rapping. Hip hop put the first black president in office, whether we know it or not. You know what I mean? And that's just giving the world a glimpse of the political potential of hip hop. Hip hop had made its way inside the NFL, $1 trillion organization. You know what I mean? And you see a lot of people gravitate towards certain individuals in hip hop because they know that the idea that they represent, that excellence, specifically black excellence, right, is in season. And those investors that you see that's gravitating towards individuals like that, whether they build a genuine friendship subsequently or not, they wise enough to know that when you invest in something that's in season, you can't lose. And then in the process, you develop friendships, genuine relationships and friendships. Like I see with Mike Rubin and me. That's a genuine friendship. That's a genuine relationship. I wouldn't say that. I'm very, very critical when I see certain things, but that relationship right there is a genuine relationship, a genuine friendship. That's respectable.
Right. So now I got X. Like, was there ever a time that you thought that, man, he might not come back? Like, once he finally got out and got back to his life, when you're in jail, a lot of people say whatever. So when he left, did you ever doubt it? Like, damn, there's a chance that he might not come back for me, or he might not, keep his word. Did you ever doubt it at any point in time? Like,
No. One thing I noticed, or one thing I recognized over the years is, and this comes from self-worth, humble, from a humble standpoint. When you go through things and you develop into like a refined version of yourself, right? First of all, you're gonna recognize the value in it because you're gonna start seeing the moves that you're making is gonna benefit you. It's gonna be working in your best interest. But other people, you're gonna know that other people are gonna see the value in you. I know he's seen the value in me, just like I seen the value in him. But he one thing I don't think a lot of people see, because he's in front of the camera, he addressing situations, but that brother is very intelligent and very sincere, right? But at the same time, he's going through the same growth and development that everybody else had to go through, and people don't see that. They think because he got some bread or he's a superstar in his own right, that somehow he don't have to go through the same maturity that everybody else had to go through. So when they see him make a decision or make a move that some people may think is immature or whatever, they think he's exempt from going through the same growth and development. But I never, be honest with you, I never doubted it, because I know when I'm building a genuine bond with somebody. And for 5 months, he was with me for 5 months. 5 months. And I know the information that he was taking in. I knew that once he went home and add that information to what he already knew, I knew it was going to put him in a power position that he's going to equate to a certain degree to them 5 months of him being in prison. The new things that he was learning to add to all the other things that he knew. And so I knew he was going to recognize the value of that. And he definitely kept his word. He definitely kept his word. And like I always tell him, it's dimensions now that it's so many dimensions that where he can go at. But at the same time, we gotta give him the same courtesy that we give each other. Don't look at the fact that he got bread. Let him go through the same growth and developments, trial and error that everybody else had to go through. I think the city got a love-hate relationship with it, and that we have a tendency of doing that with each other.
Right. No, that's real. So now, let's get to when you finally got the news. Finally. After all this time, I mean, they knowing you innocent, knowing you ain't had nothing to do with it, and they finally say, all right, it's the time. Explain that moment.
Well, when I walked out.
No, like when you got the news, like, yo, you about to come home, you going out this day. Like when they finally told you,
when
your lawyer.
Finally told me, I took it with a grain of salt. I kept my hands up because I've been through, so many ups and downs over the years, right? 30 years. That stuff, getting that information from the court. You litigating in court, and you get legal mail. So walking down to that legal mail was like a death walk to brothers in jail, because your blood pressure go up, your anxiety go up, and then you get that mail and they deny you. So just think about me litigating, because I litigated, I fought from day one. I never stopped litigating. I never stopped fighting. I learned the law to the degree where I became my own lawyer, right? And that's how I actually got back in court, as a pro se litigant. But going through those years of litigation, you learn the importance of keeping your hands up, even when you think you got a 100% win, because if not, a denial can put you down. In fact, I suppose they came home. I came home May 28th. I suppose they came home the 11th. It was already etched in stone, and I'd already sent all my property home, and then I got caught up in the DA's race, and the bullshit happened.
Wow.
And literally, I had packed all my stuff. My wife had already planned a vacation, and the whole nine.
Wow.
And then they said, nah.
And put you on 2 more weeks, basically. Another 2.5 weeks.
2 weeks of my life.
Yikes.
And that one put me down. Like I said, I was always, over the years, I always kept my guard up, but I let it down, let my guard down once I sent my property home. And he pretty much was like, no, this is 100% definite, you out on 11. So when they came back, and was like, nah, literally, that one put me down. That put me down for like 4 days. You know what I mean? And then I shook it off, offered, made Salat, and got back in the mix. But that one, I'm gonna let it be known right here, live. That one put Brother General down. Bad. And that let me know, reminded me that I'm human. It definitely reminded me that, yeah.
So when they came to you on the 28th, you wasn't even all the way. You was like, I believe it when I see it type time.
All the way in the courtroom. When we was going back and forth in the courtroom, and I had my street clothes on. The guards, the sheriffs, they was happy for me. They like, why you don't seem like you happy? I'm like, as soon as I walk out the door, when I get out that door, then I know that it's over. You know what I mean? And that's why when you see me walk out that door and I put my hands up, and and that's when I knew. That's when I was able to woosah, take a deep breath. And that moment right there. But when that moment happened, I can't even explain it. I can't even explain it. I definitely was elated. My family was out there, a lot of supporters, and I was just blessed to have so many supporters, and that's what I'm trying to incorporate in my foundation, right? The foundation that I have, the ER Foundation, which stands for Emergency Response Foundation. A lot of dudes in jail, they don't have that type of advocacy behind their issues, but yet their issues is just as powerful and relevant as the issues that freed me. But because they don't have the media attention, they don't have the advocacy, they don't have Georgetown law students, they don't have Councilman David O passing resolutions about their case. They don't have Meek Mill, Rock Nation. They don't have these elements, so their cases is not getting that attention. Nevertheless, their issues is just as relevant as mine. So my thing is, we can't allow that to happen. My foundation is geared towards bringing all the resources that was available to me, available to those cases that had merit in their issues. And being as though a lot of them I worked on their cases because I was a jailhouse lawyer, so-called jailhouse lawyer. A lot of those guys, I know their issues. I put their briefs in, their PCRAs in. In fact, since I've been home, lawyers have taken over their cases, and I went and visited Wiseman, Goldstein. You know, a lot of those guys that's working on cases that I initially filed for dudes while I was in jail. You know, just to keep their lawyers on track. You know, because that's what lies at the root of all wrongful convictions, whether people know it or not, is ineffective representation. You know, because that's the most important right that you can get, because it's through that right that all your other rights is either protected or neglected. Because we laymen, we don't know the law. When I went into the courtroom, I'm listening to my lawyer talk all this, you know, what I thought it was heat. He going in. I'm going back to the holding cell. I'm telling the dudes like, yo, my lawyer killing it. But I didn't know the language. I didn't know that he was complicit in the bullshit. You know what I mean? So when I started studying law and I look back on what he was saying, he wasn't saying that. You know, but for somebody that don't know the law, you think your lawyer is effectively defending you. You know, but that's what lies at the root of all wrongful convictions. Because you can be falsely accused, but if you got an effective lawyer, your lawyer gonna scrutinize that accusation, gonna cross-examine it effectively, gonna do the investigation necessary to go ahead and identify that accusation as a lie. But if he's ineffective, he don't have no real vested interest other than, you know, you paid him, he done already got the money. So he really don't have no vested interest. He don't care about you, you know. And that's the difference now. A lot of the dudes that's coming out that's working in these offices, Bilal, that just came home, Twigs, Darnell Drinks, we have a vested interest. We know the law, but when we helping our comrades out, the ones that we left, you know, we look at them as brothers. So we want to make sure all our T's is crossed and our I's is dotted, you know. And that's something that lawyers lack, especially here in Philadelphia.
Right. So yeah, like I touched on in the beginning, you fresh home, ain't been 30 days yet. Mm-hmm. You got the foundation already started. Know what I mean? You got that, got the ball rolling with that. Got a bunch of stuff you trying to do. You out here trying, you know, connect with the youth and do all that type of stuff. You know, I just want you to touch on one thing, like since you've been home. Being that we talk about the situation with Meek and how y'all was building in jail and then how he helped, you know, was instrumental in bringing you out. So what was it like reconnecting with him out here for the first time? Now, I mean, being as though he is who he is and how he got it, and you know, you come fresh from that situation 30 years, and now you come home and is able to connect with him and do some things. I seen you through a pickup. I think y'all was on the chopper or something like that. So explain, like, what was that like the first time, and you know, him showing you that love and y'all being out, I mean, in the world?
Well, first of all, the chopper, if you look at my face on that picture, I'm shook. Right? I'm not going to even hold you, right? That jaw started floating, and I was like this. If you look at the picture, I'm like this. Yeah, I mean, they relax. They get on jets all the time. I'm from here. I'm holding on, right? But it was a beautiful experience, man. And I was telling them, I love you, but you know, I'm married. I'm a grown ass man, right? I got to go get my wife her time, get a family.
So he said he wanted to pick you up from the jail.
Yeah, he wanted to come grab.
Oh, all right. He was like, no, I mean, my wife will come give me spend time with my family first and all that.
And he understood that. He was, so after that, damn near every day, he like, yo, you got to shoot down New York. Got to come through. So eventually, I think like 3-4 days, he was like, shoot down the game. So I went down the game. That blew my mind, coming home after 30 years. And then walking into that arena, it felt like I was floating. You know what I mean? But I went and met up with him, and we touched base on a few things. I definitely thanked him. I thanked him, like Ruben and all of them. And immediately after we enjoyed each other's company for a minute, we got right down to business. We basically was going into some of the programs that we want to create that we can work together on, especially addressing the violence out there in the streets. He really trying to figure out what can he do. You know what I mean? Like the madness is at a level that's so heavy. A lot of times people want to do things, but they don't know what to do. And it's even dangerous for them to even try to insert themselves sometimes in that environment. Yet they still have the desire to want to extend some resources, you know, to try to at least nullify or bring down the level of violence in the community. So we immediately start discussing some of those things that we discussed when he was in prison. You know, because I'll let him know my vision while I was in prison. I've always seen myself coming out. I never not seen me coming home. You know, not one time. So even when he was in prison, I was always talking in a sense like, look, when I come home, this is what we gonna do. You know, in fact, if you see, you know, if you listen to some of the things he be saying, I used to always tell him the power to manifestation. So now our whole new thing now is manifestation, a new religion. Like that's like a new religion, having the power to manifest. You see, like this right here, this is the power to manifest. This at one point was an idea. You know what I mean? And y'all developed the will and the resources and ability to manifest it. So it's actual, it's reality now. You know what I mean? And it's needed. You know, and it's needed. I feel more comfortable here. You know, like I did the other podcast, Death by Incarceration, Talia, City of Dreams. But at the same time, while I'm doing these, you got ABC and NBC debating politics, but I can't talk to this person if I'm doing it with this person. But while y'all figure that out, I'm going to the grassroots podcast. I'm going to the people, you know. And when they figure it out, they figure it out. I go on NBC, ABC, but if not, this is where I feel more comfortable at.
Right. And on that note, man, I just want you, you know, to closing out, you know, I want you to basically share a message to the youth, to the city, you know, like you said, with all the gun violence and stuff that's going on. And based on you've been down for as long as you've been, I know you've seen a lot of young boys come through that joint that was out here wrecking and doing all the nonsense out here that was coming right through that joint that wasn't built for none of that in there. Know what I mean? That realized like that wasn't really for them. Like probably was crying. Know what I mean? Or once they got their time, know what I mean, they really was not built for none of this at all.
Right.
So they really didn't know what they was getting into out here. Know what I mean? They didn't know what lied ahead of them. So give them a little message, know what I mean, from your experience.
I'm gonna say this first because, you know, I want to address the state of emergency first out there and what's going on in the community. Like I posted a video maybe like last week. I did put the videography to it, showing like the murders and stuff that's going on in our community, right? But in the backdrop, you hear the Ku Klux Klan voice, the Grand Poobah from the Klan, basically thanking us for slaying each other. Basically, they saying like we making their job easier. They no longer have to come in the hood and string us up on nooses, right? Just think about that. You know what I mean? Just think about that. You know, when we out there, we got to do better. You know what I mean? I'm not here to preach, right? I understand. You know, there's a war going on out there, right? But it's a self-destructive war, you know what I mean? And they build in prisons, you know what I mean? You just had the U.S. acting U.S. attorney bringing in the feds, all hands on deck, talking about locking everybody up as if that's going to change something. They already tried that in the 90s. But I'll say to the youngers out there, listen, at the end of the day, while y'all hunting, you got the system hunting y'all. Right? They hunting y'all. And the thing is, you may think you don't give a shit now, but when you get there, you get behind the walls, you get that life sentence, right? And the adrenaline come down, and you start finding some semblance of self-love, right? And then you start looking around, and you done box yourself in, right? That shit gonna kill you. That's gonna be the most deplorable state. You're not gonna have to wait to die, to experience hell. You're going to experience it sitting behind those walls with life sentence. A life sentence. That means you waking up every day knowing that you're not going nowhere. You know what I mean? And it may not resonate now because you know when you in it, you in it. It's like whatever. You know what I mean? I'm gonna go ahead and bust my gun until whatever. And that's how everybody thought. And when you get booked and your adrenaline come down. Family start dying. Your sister get her ass whipped by an abusive boyfriend. You ain't there. You're not there to help her. You know what I mean? Your son that you're gonna leave behind get molested by somebody that's your baby mom. There's nothing that you can do. Those are the moments that's gonna kill you. Those are the moments that's gonna crush you. You know what I mean? And then when you get up in the mountains, right, and you're around a bunch of people that never been around, black people, right? And you run across a level of racism that's so systemic, and they be able to execute that on you with immunity, right? Nobody around you up in central PA somewhere in the boondocks in the middle of a mountain. You know what I mean? And they treat you like an animal. You don't have your gun or none of that, right? That's the worst feeling in the world. You know what I mean? So my thing is, think about it. Just try to think beyond where you at, and really think where you can land up, where you can end up. I just did 30, you know what I mean? And that 30 years wasn't no joke. That 30 years wasn't no joke. Watching my mother get old in front of me, family dying, you know what I mean? Kids getting big. Yeah, that's serious. So at the end of the day, I'm gonna say this. You know, we may think the game, we used to call the streets the game. But I wrote a poem that basically saying the game is a con game and we the marks. Everybody that play it, we the marks. Disposable pawns, and we don't even dig it. My thing is, it's a better way. The old way don't work. You know, learn from our mistake. You mentioned JBM. If you could talk to Aaron Jones right now, Aaron Jones will tell them young boys, listen, don't glorify nothing that we did. You know what I mean? We feel bad because we laid the foundation that they standing on. That self-destructive foundation, even though our intentions was good, we just wanted to buy our mother some furniture, right? Wanted to buy some sneaks. Good intentions. They said good intentions pave the path to hell. You know what I mean? All our intentions, none of us came off the step saying that we was going to kill something. And we were going to sell drugs. We just wanted some nice things. You know what I mean? So my thing is just be on point. Learn from the ones that came before y'all. Learn from our mistakes. You know what I mean? And consider trying to do something better.
Right. And on that note, go ahead and plug your social media. You know what I mean? If anybody that see this want to reach out, want to help, want to get involved in the foundation and all that, and I mean, give them that information.
Ain't no doubt. You know, you can follow me on Free Eric Riddick 24. I didn't change the name because Free Eric Riddick now is a movement. You have many other Eric Riddicks behind the wall. You know what I mean? Kevin Bowman, Aaron Jones. You mentioned Aaron Jones, Paul Rogers from 46th Street, Butchie. You know, there's a whole bunch. Clark from Tasker. You know what I mean? All is a bunch of Eric Riddicks. So I'm gonna leave the name Free Eric Riddick 24 to represent a movement now. Although I'm home, we like the Marines. We not leaving no good men behind. You know what I mean? So Free Eric Riddick is now the movement to free all the other individuals that was dealing with the same situation I was dealing with. But you can follow me on Free Eric Riddick 24, my Facebook page, Eric Man Riddick. The ER Foundation will be all the way up and running by next week. We have office space on 15th Street. I'll put the exact suite once we finalize the lease and everything. But yeah, you can follow me on again, Free Eric Riddick 24.
Got you. All right, man. On that note, man, we gonna sign out for now. I would love to, touch base sometime down the line and update the people and let them know like what you got going on as far as the foundation and how things coming along for you since you've been home. Cause like I say, you fresh out, not even a month. Know what I mean? So I mean, we'll definitely do an updated job. But we appreciate you taking your time out, to sit down with us. Anything else you want to say before we get up out of here?
Yeah, I want to thank y'all. I want to thank F.A.M.E TV for inviting me. But also, the work that y'all doing. This is how we got to do it. You know what I mean? We can't wait no longer for doing it the traditional way. We have social media at our disposal right now. Sometimes you got to start where you at. Grab a camera, get a location, and tell our story. We got to tell our story the way that it needs to be told without it being edited. So I want to thank y'all and I want to salute, y'all whole network. And anywhere I'm needed at, don't hesitate, call. If anything I can do, I'm there.
We appreciate that, man. We signing out on that note, man. Eric Riddick, F.A.M.E TV.
Peace.
Early.